This program was made possible with the support from Midland Education Foundation, Community National Bank, Diamondback Energy, ConocoPhillips, and Lissa Noel Wagner.
Education has a long and diverse history. It goes as far back as the very first written records were discovered. The earliest non-tax funded schools date back to the 17th century Puritan New England, Boston Latin School, 1635. Then one man advocated for schools that were free, mandatory, and open to children of all backgrounds. He pushed for well-trained professional teachers, better schoolhouses, and a curriculum designed to foster common public ideals. The man behind this revolutionary way of thinking, Horace Mann. Known as the father of Common School, was the first secretary of the Massachusetts Board of Education in 1837. Mann is recognized for formalizing and expanding the system on a state and eventually a national level, therefore establishing the foundation of the American public school system in Massachusetts during the 1830s and 1840s. He championed taxpayer-funded, non-sectarian, and universal education to promote democracy, good citizenship, and social mobility. Without undervaluing any other human agency, it may be safely affirmed that the common school may become the most effective and benignant of all forces of civilization. Horace Mann. Education institutions help build community and stability. It allows businesses to grow and flourish as families move in and set roots. This is certainly true for Midland, Texas. Midland's first school was a one-room schoolhouse built in 1885 for 64 students. By 1893, a new two-story brick schoolhouse was built with the top floor dedicated to secondary education. In 1907, not only was the Midland Independent School District formed, but the first superintendent, W.W. Lackey, was hired. Mr. Lackey served Midland ISD for 35 years. He retired in 1941. Midland School District saw a huge growth surge after World War II as urbanization took hold. With growth comes diversity. The first school for the Hispanic children was known as the Mexican School, which opened its doors in 1929 and later was named after Lorenzo de Zavala. In 1933, the colored school opened for the African American children to attend. It later became the George Washington Carver School.
My parents were actually born and raised here. You don't hear that very often, but they were both born and raised in Midland. At that time, it was called the Mexican School, and then they went to Cowden and then Midland High. Both sets of grandparents were all born all over Texas. And then my mom said they spoke a lot of Spanish. They all spoke in Spanish, and they went to that school. And there, I can't find this picture, but there's a picture of all the students in front, and then the little deal, and it was called the Mexican School. And she said they didn't have a whole lot of teachers that worked real hard with them, but I can't remember the name of one. She said just worked so hard to teach them English and to get them to learn everything she was trying to teach them. And then they said that when TV came out is when they really learned English.
I didn't speak English either when I started the school. I was the black funny talking girl in an all black school. I was born in South Louisiana, and we spoke, well, French Creole, Cajun. And they would tell me, "Oh, she talks funny, don't let her talk." So I thought, okay, I talk funny. So my goal when I started teaching English as a second language was to tell folk, you have to stop, back up, take it a little at a time. You learn a little, but you be sure that you are diligent. You're going to encourage yourself. You're not going to drop off the tree like a rotten apple. You're going to stay the course, because English is a difficult language to learn.
In 1954, the Supreme Court ruling in Brown versus Board of Education declared that racial segregation in public schools violated the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Integration was a slow process. Rezoning school districts, transportation logistics, and classroom requirements was not a small undertaking. It took many years for schools across the United States to fully integrate.
We didn't know any different back then because State of Zavala was our home school, kinder through 6. We lived 3 blocks away. We had a grocery store, we had a little supermarket. That was our world. So one of the things that really made a difference for me were those teachers who would come from other parts of town to come teach us, because you're talking 1965, so it was a battleground. But I admire them because they did what they had to do to help us. Actually, my first grade teacher is still, she just retired, several years ago, but we still stay in touch. She is I can't ever describe her well enough to let her know how much I appreciate that she took an interest throughout my elementary years, through college. Well, I was De Zavala Elementary, San Jacinto, and then at that time it changed to Lee Freshman, and then Lee High School. Mr. Cornales was there the whole time I was there, but that built the foundation, though. That I can honestly say that when I left there, I was prepared. So there was no watering down. It was expectations all the way around. So they had to start from the principal. So.
I was part of the cluster system, so I got to live the busing, going back and forth from school to school. Growing up, we moved around a lot. So I went to elementary, for kindergarten, I went to Santa Rita. For first grade, I went to Washington. For second grade, I went to Santa Rita. For third grade, I went to Travis, and I was a part of the cluster system to where they bust us around. So fourth grade, I went to Rusk. Fifth grade, I went back to Santa Rita. And then sixth grade, I went to Travis and Washington because we moved. The cluster system was where they bused students from different schools to be able to integrate the minorities in with the whites. So they bus like us South Side kids over to the North Side of school, and they bus the North Side kids over to the South Side of school so that we can all integrate and get to know each other.
My mother was a bus driver, my sister, my step-grandmother, my auntie, uncle, and so, they even moved on. My mother retired, and my sister as well, and grandmother passed on, but, and then my uncle worked, for the city, but it's just that bond with those students that you can make a difference in somebody's life. You never know what they're going through. And so you have to be a listening ear and have your heart open, because they not can talk to somebody, but they trust you. And trust is very important in education, And so you meet those students where they are in order to help them to grow.
My mom was a bus driver, so riding the bus was pretty cool. She was actually my 7th grade bus driver, so that was awesome to be able to ride the bus with my mom.
No matter what school you go to, the teachers and staff set the standard of expectations. As Midland grew and times changed, the staff at Midland ISD stepped up and nurtured the children that they were entrusted with.
am a Midland native, although I did leave and go up north to school. I went to Texas Tech. I graduated from Midland High School in 1972. I went to Bunch, Ralph J. Bunch Elementary through 4th grade, and it was the old Bunch. It's not the one that's there now. They tore the one down that I went to. And then I was in private schools for 2 years, 5th and 6th grade. And after that, I went to Carver Junior Senior High School, 7th and 8th grade. And what's interesting about that is since it was 7th through 12th grades, I still see people, and I'll say, I went to school with you, and they said, no, I'm 75, 80 years old. I said, you were a senior when I was in 7th grade. So they had all of us in one building. So I was there for 2 years. My father taught at Carver, and I had him for science 1 year, which was interesting. And then they closed Carver, and I was bused to, at that time, Edison, which is now Midland Freshman School. And I was in the first group of the integrated group that went to Edison, and that was a change.
School was interesting. I had some very interesting teachers, because I never shall forget, we had the low first and high first. Low first, that meant that was the time you were from September to Christmas. And that was one whole semester. And then you could get promoted to the high first, depending upon how well you had done in the low first. And if you didn't, you remained in the low first before you, because in January, you could be promoted to the high first. And everybody wanted to get promoted to the next grade. That was the way it was all the way through low first, high first, all the way through 6th grade, low 6, high 6. So you wanted to be in the top number because that means you were doing well. I started school in 1939 in kindergarten, preschool. My mama started putting me in a private kindergarten. I was 3 years old, and I thought, oh Lord, it's so boring, because I was with my grandfather. He had a blacksmith shop, and you were doing things hands-on. And when I teach, when I'm in the classroom, I like to do hands-on stuff with the kids because they remember it. We bring that reading and the activity together, and oh, that's what it is, and they get it.
I went to Emerson Elementary School, and then Goddard Junior High, and then Midland Freshman. At that time, it was called Austin Freshman School, and then 3 years here at Lee High School. Yeah, so Emerson was 1st through 6th grade. Great experience, really. I had really good elementary school teachers. They were very nurturing. As I think back on that, you know, Mrs. Robinson was my 1st grade teacher, and you know, you don't know anything about anything. You know, the tone of elementary school at Emerson was just very positive. You know, for the most part, kids were interested in getting up and going to school every day.
During the 1970s, Midland ISD desegregated their schools. Freshman junior highs became the feeder schools and only served 9th grade students. Students were bused from all over town to 2 freshman schools, Robert E. Lee and Midland High.
It had to do with desegregation. That was really the most economic and practical way to desegregate schools back in would have been in the 70s. And so they just created freshman schools out of what used to be junior highs, and that's how that got started. You know, when we moved to junior high in Midland at that time, we had kids that came from a number of elementary schools, obviously, and so you know all new possibilities for friends groups and that kind of stuff. A lot of social things happening. Junior high is a really interesting age for me, I had two exceptional English teachers in junior high, Mrs. Cook for 7th grade and Mrs. Biggs for 8th grade. And I didn't realize how much I would lean on the things that they taught me those 2 years back to back on the English language, on writing in general, vocabulary, but that has served me well, really, not just through the rest of my education through the university, but in business and now in my current position.
I grew up in Blackwell for kindergarten, so I went to kindergarten with 11 students, a very small community. And then between kindergarten and first grade, we moved to Robert Lee, so we thought we'd move to the big city, and now I had 22, students in class. But I went there from first grade till I graduated with 22 students, and was determined not to go into education.
The power of education breaks down barriers. It allows children to find a safe place, somewhere they can grow socially, mentally, and can give confidence to be who they are. There's a place for everyone, no matter their economic background.
My dad was a teacher and a coach, and then my mom didn't graduate from high school. Back when she, was going to school, that was a very different time, and, neither of my parents are living now. And so, she was always, and I think that's given me a really good perspective, because I would hear at home, she didn't like to go to school. She didn't want to go meet with teachers because she felt like they were the experts. She might say something that, wasn't the right thing to say, or, was a little intimidated by that formal schooling, if you will. So I've always taken that perspective and realized that not all of our families are going to feel comfortable coming to the school. And it also creates that real appreciation for the work that everyone on our team does.
What was amazing about just my experience with school, when I was in 3rd grade, I started at Rice Elementary, and my mom had been incarcerated, went to federal prison. So when I walked in as a 3rd grader, I came in with shame, I came in with low self-confidence, I came in scared to death. And I had just recently moved in with my grandparents, who I barely knew at that point in time, and they decided to take my sister and me in. And through that process, I learned about the power of love. And what I mean by that is, when I walked in my 3rd grade, classroom, scared to death, I had 2 little girls come in and tell me that they wanted to be my friend. And from that moment on, I knew it was okay. I had the most amazing teachers, starting in 3rd grade, all the way up to my high school, that just poured into me. And what I figured out really quickly, I say really quickly, took some time, but after a season, I realized that my circumstances did not have to define who I was going to become. And in fact, my circumstances didn't determine my value as a human being. And it was those educators and the people that were part of that school, those community members, that poured into me and really helped me to find my voice and gave me confidence to move forward and pursue my dreams. So, you always hear this saying of they were planting trees under a shade they will never rest under. And that's exactly what they did for me. And I think that really helped to shape what I did as an adult, if that makes sense. So I learned a lot about being strong. I learned a lot about the power of love. and I learned a lot about finding our own voice. And it all started at that little school that did so much for me and helped me to realize the power of just pouring into others. So
I went to Anson Jones K through 4, Bowie and Milam, and then we moved across town. So that was rough. I was actually it was Lee District, and we moved over close to SJ, and so that's when I started on the Midland High track. As a kid, I just remember friends. I think that was so important for me, but teachers that told me they believed in me. Didn't get a lot of that at home, and I remember being advanced, and so I would go in math and reading and English, I would go to the classes above me and sit in on those classes, and it was the validation that I got from teachers there that I really think I was missing. So yeah, some good memories.
My mom and dad were my biggest fans in school and worked hard at home with me. Dad on the math side, mom on the English side. I don't memorize very well, and so spelling, I'm still a terrible speller, even though I got blisters on my fingers from my mom making me look up a word, the spelling of a word in a dictionary. I mean, just constantly. And honestly, I don't think it helped much.
I'd been around black kids all of my school life in Midland, and I only had one white teacher at Carver. All of my teachers were black and were personal friends of the family. And I discovered then that teachers, when they know you and know the parents, there's a little more push there. And if teachers had problems with students, they might say, well, I'm going to see your mother at choir practice tomorrow night. I'm going to tell her how you're acting in my class or how you did not get that assignment done. And many of us lived on the south side of Midland. So you might be living next door to your math teacher or down the street from your math teacher. So it was a really good community. And then with the closing of Carver, a lot of our black teachers left. And there was a void left in the community for role models. And, but I survived Midland Edison and went on to Midland High School.
So I think it was, when we talk about community, it really was a community that showed up. So when I look at how did I know I was going to be okay? That, this little girl, this 8-year-old little girl was going to make it. And it really came from these students that had no clue about what I was going through at that time, telling me how much, and, little kids will say that I love you, you're my friend, and that made me feel special. Like I was worthy. And then I had teachers that would stay with me after school because I had, a piano lesson. And so my 3rd grade teacher would stay with me until my piano lesson started. We would play Yahtzee. She would talk, we'd just talk about family. We'd talk about life. But she made it her job, and it wasn't her job, to just be present for me and to let me know that she cared and that this was a safe space. So it was Mrs. Bland, it was Miss D, my piano teacher, it was my FFA teacher, my UIL teacher, Mr. Smith, Mr. Heron, our principal. I felt like I never turned a corner where there wasn't an adult telling me that I was created for purpose, that I can do this. And it wasn't that they really said those words, but it was just, you know, the fist pump or the side hug, or we're so glad you're here today, that made the difference. And it was like, okay, they're excited I'm here. I can go into this class and I can learn. Where in the past, you know, that was really hard for me.
But it's interesting because school with me, it was all books. You had homework, and you had to take that homework back to school the next day. And a lot of times you didn't get help. I remember one time we couldn't get the help because we were home, my brother and I were homeless. So we had no one to help us. But we had some fantastic teachers. I never shall forget one in particular, Mrs. Huckabee, Miss Autumn Mickey Huckabee, who was the music teacher. And she taught music, she taught dance, she taught everything a kid needed to know. When you got to her classroom for music, you were excited because you didn't know what she had up her sleeve.
Most importantly, though, was my senior year at Midland High. We had a long-term sub, Mr. Guerrero, and I wish I could find this guy to thank him. But he was just a fill-in. I know he had worked at NASA and was laid off, and so he had taken the job at Midland High to be our chemistry teacher. And I was going through a really rough time in high school, you know, home life and some choices I had made. And he was the first person. He pulled me in the hall, and he said, "What are you gonna do when you leave here?" I said, "I don't have any plans, work." He's like, "You know you have a gift in chemistry, right?" He's like, "You hardly pay attention, you ace the exams. You need to think about doing something with chemistry." And like, I literally walked away, and I don't think he understands just that small 30-second conversation, the impact that had on me, because that became my major. I decided to go to school, and I played soccer at UTPB and got my chemistry degree and my MBA. And I think a lot of that's attributed to Mr. Guerrero. And I would love to be able to find him and thank him personally.
Education not only provides the basics of reading and writing, but it also provides lifelong foundations for our children. Education allows children to flourish in ways that seem impossible for some. It opens up the child's world to endless possibilities of growth, creativity, athleticism, and friendship. School's not easy for everyone. Some children are faced with learning, economic, or social challenges. But school is a place for everyone. Whether it's through academics, the arts, or sports, children can thrive and become lifelong learners. Please join us next time as we continue Teaching for Tomorrow.